Alrighty. Looks like we got a good bunch here of us. This will be recorded. I think pieces of the training today will also be helpful for secretaries as well. So we will be sending this out probably later this week with the PowerPoint so that everybody can access it. They know the information and we're all up to date. So let's go ahead and get started. Well, good morning. I'm Shelby Sivanda. If there is anybody new here, welcome. So I am the Associate Director for the Bureau of Rehabilitation Services, or VRS, and Voc Rehab, of course, falls under the Bureau. And then we will also have, Virginia, if you want to pop your camera on real quick, if you don't mind.
Morning. Morning, everyone. You should hopefully all know me, but Virginia Bates, and I am Director of Program Improvement for VRS. And I'm going to let Shelby lead through this. I'll pop in as I need it.
Thank you, Virginia. Alrighty, so our agenda. So I thought it would be cool if we did kind of a little overview of 2023. I don't know about you, but I felt like 2023 was pretty busy, but it was also super successful. So I want to make sure we go over some of that, and so we can all share in those successes. And then we'll talk about a little bit about some things in AWARE with the referral module, post-secondary, the discovery changes that happen, and a new billing protocol that's coming out. Some reminders, and then the VRCC role in submitting claims and participant registration. And then we will have a survey regarding future trainings of VRCPS. So we'll want your input on that. We will be having a survey or some questions right here for the discovery changes and new billing protocol. So if you do want to have your phone handy, we will be using VBox, of course, and we'll have the QR code, and we'll take some time for everybody to get logged in that, but just be prepared that is coming. All right, so 2023. So some of this is cut off, but this is a word cloud. So I created this to show, some things that we did in 2023. So some big ones that you may or may not be aware of is that we had we had one state audit, and then we had a federal audit. And both of those were very successful. We had 0 findings, which is wonderful. That hasn't happened in several years. And at a national level, it has not happened in many years. And it only happened that previously because it was a whole new federal team that was auditing the state. And so they were all new, they weren't really aware. But be assured, the team that was here, the federal government that was here in May 2023, they have been here forever. They know the ins and outs of VR. And they were really pretty impressed with the things that we do here in Indiana. So that is kudos to everyone. And you, as a VRCC, should definitely take part in that kudos. So good job, everyone. We did add some new services, as you know. So we implemented those. And some of the Discovery Cohort B changes came out. So that Discovery Cohort B comprised of VR staff, supervisors, providers. And so they reviewed some of the discovery process, gave some best suggestions, best practices. We've implemented most of their suggestions, and then we also made changes to the discovery forms, which is what you saw back in November. So that was because of that cohort. We also worked on getting central print available in the referral module, which is fun. We have starting the SE Plus project. So that is working with individuals who are working in sheltered workshop, trying to get those individuals out of sheltered workshop and into competitive integrated employment. There was a deaf-blind conference that was held this year. And how fun is this? I love this number. 424 new vendors registered in VRCPS. Whoa. So VR vendor was very busy this year. And that also includes, participants being registered. So again, that kudos to you, helping participants get registered in VRCPS and also helping new businesses as well. I know a lot of you do help with businesses getting registered, and we thank you for that. All right, so that's just some fun highlights of 2023. And then what I did is I was a sneaky little girl here. I reached out to some of your supervisors to hear some of their feedback. So what specifically, maybe around the state, could we highlight maybe some of the work, VRCCs do around the state? So I thought I could take a little moment here to showcase a few offices here. So we heard that Muncie works specifically to clear up any fiscal needs before a case is transferred. So if they are transferring a case to a different office, the VRCCs make sure that the fiscals are cleaned up, it's rectified, whatever needs to be done is all ready for the next VRCC who will be monitoring that case. Lafayette office, they call all the intake appointments ahead of time, and which I'm hoping a lot of you probably do that. But what they do as well is they prepare any consents beforehand. So they will either have those already in the referral module, or they will send those out and try to get those for signature prior to the appointment. So that really helps kind of speed up that process during the intake, and they're not having to worry about filling out those forms because the VRCC already did that for them. They also worked with local audiologists to try to mend some relationships, so that was helpful. And then again, talking about mending relationships, Fort Wayne really helped to repair some relationships with audiologists and some hearing aid manufacturers. So thank you so much for these CCs that worked on some of these successes. These were just a few that I wanted to highlight, but I know a lot of you go above and beyond already. And so in the future, I'd like for us to have you guys speak and tell us kind of some innovative things that you do or going above and beyond so that we can all take from those practices and implement those in our offices. So cool stuff. So on to Aware. So just keeping in mind the referral module. So as a CC, you may or may not, work within the referral module too often. Your secretary might do a lot of this, but just keeping in mind to clean up old referrals. There are some pretty old referrals from like 2021 in there. And so it kind of skews our numbers and showing how many active referrals we have. So if you could please go into the referral module at some point in the next couple weeks to check any old referrals, and you can either close those, you can select that drop down for the outcome and change it to closed. Or if you did start a referral, but you didn't have all the information and you just couldn't complete it, it's not going to let you close that. It would have to be deleted. So you can email Aware Help Desk and we can delete those for you. Any questions on the referral module?
Looks like you have a hand raised. Oh, they may have just put it down. Never mind.
Oh,
nope, I see it again.
Shelby,
Hey,
how
Debbie.
far back? Yeah. Hey, how far back do we go on those referrals, like to close them out? Is it 3 months or?
Great question. So I like the magic of 3 always. So 3 months is definitely cool to start looking back 3 months back, but we also need to make sure that we had, at least 3 contact attempts to try to schedule that, or they may have missed their appointment and we made 3 contacts to try to reach them again. If that's all been completed, then you most definitely can close that. Thank you for asking that, Debbie.
Okay, thanks.
All right, post-secondary. Okay. If you don't already know, Amy Killey has been promoted to the post-secondary manager. She's doing a fabulous job. You've probably already seen some of her work that she's been working on. And so she took a look at some of our guidance for authorizations, and we talked through it. And I think we met well back in the day, but we're going to change it. I know, crazy change, but I think it's going to make sense. So for the authorization dates on post-secondary, so what we will do is you can create an authorization prior to the start of a semester, right? You can do that. That's fine. But that begin date should be the last refund date. So the start date is the last refund date. So the last refund date is saying that should be coming on that FAC, Part B. So that means that if a student, decided to drop a class or something before that refund date, then we won't be charged for that. But if it's past the refund date, then we'll need to pay that. So that's why we have the begin date or the last refund date as the start date for that authorization. I'm going to pause. So if you recall, it used to be backwards. So it would be like the end date was the last refund date, but that didn't make sense. So basically what we're trying to stop is that we don't want schools to be claiming before that last refund date. So the system already does that for us if we just tell it the start date. So by using that last refund date as a start date, VRCPS won't even let them claim prior to that, so it doesn't matter. So the end date would be just the semester end date. It doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. I do see a hand raise. I believe it was Dana. Yep, Dana, you're up.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So now you want the start date to be the last refund date. I want to make sure on that.
Yes.
So that's usually 6 weeks into the semester, right?
Yes.
Okay, because a lot of these grad schools, well, they send you the bill before it even starts. I've already got one, and we haven't done the authorization yet. So
yeah.
Okay. You guys change everything, don't you?
Well, you couldn't even do anything about that anyway if you didn't have an authorization. So that's on the school, not us.
That's true. Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you, Shelby.
You're welcome. I know it seems crazy how we change so much, but there is method to our madness majority of the time. So the system will just do it for us instead of us having to keep track and hold on to claims of knowing if it's the last refund date. That used to be the old guidance. You guys would have to sit on these claims, and that didn't make sense. So Carla, I see your hand raised. You can go.
So when can they bill for that? Can they bill after the begin date?
They can bill whenever. That's the thing. Since we're changing how we do an authorization, they can bill whenever they want. Because the system will stop them from trying to bill before our authorization start date.
Okay. I just want to make sure they didn't have to wait till later.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. That's why we're changing it. Yep. Virginia, did you want to say?
You took care of it. I was just going to mention that by making the start date of the authorization the drop add date, they cannot bill before that date. So that eliminates them accidentally billing before the drop add date.
Yep. We're making the system work for us. Yep, so the end date would be just the end date of the semester. That's fine. Any questions on that? Okay. So I'm going to demo special instructions comment templates. All right, so I'm in a case here. I have Aware open and I just selected new authorization. So now I'm going to just click a vendor authorization type. All right, so just what we talked about, the begin date here, that would be the last refund date or the last drop date. Okay, that's what you would put there. So what I'm talking about here is special instructions. So we have a comment name here that we can type in. So comment templates are templates that Aware, us, we have created on the back end to make it easier on you. So let's hit find. Okay. So if you don't know the comment template name, that's okay. We can just select find. All right. Do you see all these other comment templates we have? We've actually created this for you. So if you are authorizing for anything at, that has a Medicaid rate, you can use these comment templates and it will pull up on the special instructions section for you. So you don't have to type all this out. You just have to click what comment template you want. And that will show in VRCPS on the authorization for the vendor. So for this one, we actually see there's one for post-secondary. So I'm going to click that. And there it is. It fills in. And then so what I need to do then is authorization for tuition for term and year. So I can erase that and say spring 2024. And I can keep this. Claims will not be processed until after the refund period ends and should be submitted after the end date of the drop add period. So I could keep that, or it honestly really doesn't matter because the school can't bill us until that start date on that authorization, if you recall. So that's just an FYI for them. So that is how you use a comment template. Are there questions on the comment templates? Again, we like to work smarter, not harder. So that's why we created some of these comment templates. If you have other suggestions of comment templates that you find yourself having to type a lot, and wow, that would be helpful if that was just a template in here automatically, send those into Aware Help Desk and we can look at adding those for you. All right, Tammy, you can ask your question.
Okay, so I don't do post-secondary now, but so this might be a totally stupid question. But I know sometimes we have students in a panic because school's starting. Sometimes we haven't gotten the FAC back from schools. So do schools not want to see that authorization start date at the beginning of the semester in order to keep their students in class? Like they're not going to cancel their tuition because now the start date is like at a later date in the semester?
Oh, no, they're going to get their money. They know they will. As long as they have an authorization and they see it, they know they're going to get their money.
Okay.
But the FAC thing, that is a totally separate issue. And that I can't answer that one. That's going to have to be working with the school or the student going to the financial aid department and asking for that. Now the books may be different, guys. The books may be going through the bookstore. So that could be a totally different authorization. And if it is for books, then you might think about just doing a separate authorization for books and having an earlier start date so that they can get their books. But this is really just for tuition. So we have a question about spring 2024. Do we need to update the start dates on those? Let me speak with Amy. I don't think she's on here. Amanda, can you Teams message Amy on that question, please?
I will, but I'm not sure if she's available. She was in a meeting at a school today.
Oh, okay. So we may get back to you on that. it's not going to hurt anything if you do. So wouldn't the new date also apply for room and board? That seems to be a little bit different because this is really just for classes. Okay. Any other questions on this? Okay. All right. So the financial aid letter was updated. It was in the blast. So the financial aid letter no longer includes the FAC. I did have a question in here earlier about the signed FAC each semester. So hopefully this will touch on that. So I created this kind of little timeline to help. I thought this would be helpful. So January and February, you should be mailing out the financial aid letter using central print and mail, and you can even use bulk on that. So if you have your post-secondary caseload up, like you would like caseload Indiana DDRS, and then you can click multiple checkboxes for each individual. Then you could do central print that way in bulk. If you need specific instructions on how to do that, you can either ask a friend, or if your friend doesn't know, then you can email Where Help Desk and we can help walk you through that. And then June or July, sending a blank FAC to the student for signature. And then once hopefully you get that back from the student, and then in July and August, you're sending that to the financial aid office for the fall semester. So some schools might require you to have that FAC signed each semester, but that's not our requirement. You can have one FAC for the entire year. So Maggie, your question should answer that. Do we need a signed FAC for each semester? Not from the student. No, you can use the original one they signed in June or July for the entire year. Unless the school tells you that they need it updated. So then in December, you will also send that signed FAC to the financial aid office for the spring semester. And then if they are going to do summer school, you would send, again, that signed FAC to the financial aid office for the summer semester. Okay. Are there any questions on post-secondary? I will pause and take a moment here. So it will be coming out soon, an updated release of Aware, where letters will now be able to be sent via DocuSign. So that would include the FAC. Yay. And that FAC would be going to the student for that signature only. So that will be coming out probably in the next month or two. That letters will be available for DocuSign. So consents, application signature page, handbook, receipt signatures, that will be done, will be available for DocuSign in the referral module and participant module. And if somebody doesn't have an email address, we can text them a link to sign via DocuSign. It's amazing, fun stuff. So be on the lookout for that. What about receipt of goods? I don't know if that's on the list. Maybe. Good thought. Thanks, Tammy. All right, now it's time. So like I said, you can use your phone. I'm going to use my phone. So I'm going to open up my camera. And I'm going to scan that QR code with my camera. And it's asking for my name. Okay. So you can do it on your phone or you can do it on your computer. If you want to do it on your computer, just open up a browser tab and just type in vevox.app. and then enter the ID that's shown. Okay. Are we ready? Yes. Okay. Let's get those votes in. Is it a trick question? Alrighty, I'm gonna close the poll. Okay. What is the right answer? Okay. Two. There were two right answers. So we gave them options, remember? So they started in July 2023, so that was before November. So they have two options now. They can either continue submitting the old monthly progress summary, or they can use the new updated discovery profile. Let's go forth. Okay, if a participant started discovery in December 2023, what supporting documentation should VR receive from provider? Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Just one answer. The new discovery profile. They just started. So they started after November. That means they're following the new discovery change, which is that new discovery profile. So not both and not the monthly progress summary. Just the new discovery profile for anyone that starts discovery after November 2023. Sherry Kincaid, we were told that it was extended. Nope. I'm not sure what was extended, but nope, not to February. That's not a thing. No. Now we have a new billing protocol coming out in February, but that's not related to the discovery changes. Alrighty. Glad we could clear some things up. Yep, glad we cleared it up. Good deal. All right. Oh, so the new billing protocol. Let's go over that. So your supervisor should have already gone over this, the new billing protocol. That's going into effect February 1st, which is, it's just two, okay? So for providers, which are our employment service providers, they need to send all their supporting documentation to the local area general mailbox, email box. They should not be attaching with their claim in VRCPS. All other vendors, psych evals, medical, literally everything else except employment services, those will be attached with the claim and VRCPS. That's it. That's the new billing protocol. So employment services documentation will come in through your general area mailbox. Supporting documentation for all other services will be attached to the claim in VRCPS. That's it. So that's the February. That's going to start February 1st. Okay, so based on that, based on the new billing protocol, what should an employment provider do with a discovery profile for monthly billing? Okay. Closing the poll. Okay. Good job. Good job. So, yep, based on that new protocol, those should come into the general email box. Lindsay has a comment here in the chat. We have also been telling them not to send a separate email for each document, but to add as many attachments in one email as possible. Lindsay, thank you. Love that. We will actually be demonstrating that. Amy, wonderful question. So what is the reason for emailing to office mailbox and not only to CPS? So guys, let me be pretty transparent here. It is challenging for providers to work with multiple different offices at times, because different offices were requesting different things and having things done differently. And it was just really hard for them to keep up with what expectations were. So we as leadership said, okay, we got to put like consistency where we can. And this is one piece where we can have transparency across, or consistency across the entire state. So that is why we have to get everybody on board for this protocol. This is the protocol for everyone, on us and on the vendors. We will give grace in the beginning, okay, as we always do. So if they attach it to a claim and it comes in there, just, email them, hey, we really just need this emailed. We don't want you to attach it to the claim because it comes in there twice. And specifically why we wanted employment providers to do having it emailed, Amy, to your question there specifically, is because we require that supporting documentation for employment services 10 days following the next month. So they're the only people that we have that stipulation on. So it's very hard for them to try to get us their supporting documentation and get the billing in at the same time. So that is why we're saying, hey, just email us that supporting documentation. You can do billing when you can. So that is why we have employment services emailing it directly instead of attaching to the claim, because it may take them a lot longer to do claims. But since we require them to send it 10 days before the following month, that's why we said, hey, just email us that supporting documentation. And so I specifically put on, my E is missing, but email, VRCC, and VRC. So we should not be asking them to, hey, please CC me and my counselor when you send this. No, that's not the protocol. The protocol is to just email it to the general email box. So if they put a claim in and we don't have the documentation yet, sometimes they send to VRCC. Don't recommend that. Oh, okay. And question answered. Okay. Thanks, Dana. So we have a question. Are we supposed to have billing and supporting documentation by the 10th of the month? So that would be it's just the supporting documentation, just not the billing. Okay, so just the supporting documentation of the following month. So January 10th, we should have already received December's supporting documentation for employment services. But we don't need to see that claim until later. That's just a fiscal piece, but we need to kind of see what's going on. So that's why we have the 10 days. But we can't approve billing prior to documentation. Right. Yeah, that's not changing. So vendors know, providers know that they need to have their documentation in before they bill us. So a lot of them will, they've already said that they really like this protocol, just so you know, because it allows them more time to bill. So you should have your supporting documentation before they can even get to billing. We have a comment here. We had a provider that would submit billing, but we'd have to wait a considerable amount of time before we receive reports. Then they would arrive via a huge zip file. Then the files would get placed into a case attachments. Okay. So, yep, that will be opposite now. So they won't be submitting that billing prior to the supporting documentation.
Shelby, if I can jump in.
Yes.
So if you have an employment service provider who is not following this procedure, they're submitting their billing before they're submitting their documentation, or their documentation is coming after the 10th of the month, please let us know so that we can do additional training for them. It's not a gotcha situation, guys. We're trying to help them, but there might be some misunderstanding of what we're asking. So if you let either Shelby or I or both of us know that, we are working with the employment service providers to do these things to help them. And so we want to make sure that they've, one, received the message to understand what's expected. So just please let us know if you're having challenges.
So I see some of you already throwing vendors in here. So keep in mind, this protocol hasn't gone in place yet. So let's give it a chance. Let's, let it work out some kinks. They know it's coming. We just talked to them not too long ago. December 22nd is when we told them about this. And they keep in mind, providers also have their own systems. Like we use VRCPS and Aware, they have their own systems that they have to update as well. So you kind of got to keep that in mind too, is that they have to change now as well. Probably a lot more changes than we have to do, to be frank. And so let's just give them some time to adjust and try to get on board. And then, I'd say after a couple months, if you're still seeing these trends, then email us. But we got to give them a chance here, just like they have to give us a chance, right? We would want that as well. So we still have nothing else is changing with the 10 days of waiting to maybe cancel or reject a claim because you haven't received documentation. So if you receive a bill and you don't see the supporting documentation in the case, I would first check the general mailbox to make sure it wasn't missed. And then if it's still not there, then you can email the provider, hey, I need this in order for us to, process this claim. You're doing a case note, right, from the payment page that you did this. And then after 10 days, if you haven't heard anything back, then at that point, you can reject that claim. That's not changing. That's still in place. All right, what do we do with a provider that we authorize? And then we have to keep trying to contact them to find out if there will be billing. That sometimes happens. I know it's kind of, we laugh because we're like, how do we have to keep reminding people to, get their money, right, that they're due? And we feel that here as well. So I would just suggest that you keep trying what you're trying. But you may try different people in regards to employment service providers, but if it's different kind of vendors, then we can maybe talk more about that. Like Virginia, how maybe we might submit the claim for them if it's like a different kind of provider, not necessarily employment services, that kind of thing.
We also have to remember that if there's some turnover, there might be some challenges with that provider's ability to get those claims submitted in a timely manner. So that's also something we can work on and provide some additional training. So communication is key, guys. And if you're not getting communication from the provider, then let's talk and let's see. I might have some different avenues, or we might have some different avenues of individuals we can speak to assist with the situation. But again, I think this is a new protocol for us. It's a new protocol for them. It's effective in February, so let's give some grace, like Shelby said, and give them time to change their systems, change their process. And some of them will have already started this, and some of them are maybe not starting till February.
I do see a comment about specifically Goodwill sending their contact notes in VRCPS instead of monthly progress summary. Dana, I think if you continue to see that happen, if you can email, Virginia, do you want those to go to like VR vendor or you, VR, what do you think?
Let's, good question. Send them directly to me.
Thank you. All right, what if a vendor, they have open authorizations expired for months with no billing and can't get anyone to respond or email or call back? If you've done your due diligence on that after several months and you've case noted all that on the authorization page, it's okay to close out authorizations. It's totally okay. Because if they come back and say, hey, we need to bill this, it's pretty easy typically for us to reopen authorizations and get people paid. But it's after, making several contacts and doing your due diligence. So.
Shelby, if I can insert something there, if it's 1, 2 authorizations, that's a different story. But if it is a huge number of authorizations that you have issued to them that you're not getting billing on, to me, that my reasoning skills say, okay, there's a challenge here that we need to figure out, whether that's they've lost their billing staff, there's a lack of training or things like that. So I would tell you that if there is like a large volume of authorizations where no billing has been done, there's no response, let's email me if you've attempted and have had no success over several months, and then we can utilize our contacts to find out what's going on. Because I also don't want us to cancel 20, 30 authorizations and then them come back and say, okay, we had this situation, we need the bill. And then we have to go back and undo what was done when we could very easily have tried to figure it out and help them. So 1 or 2, okay, go ahead and close it if you're not getting any response. But large volume tells me there's a bigger issue here. And so let's figure that out first.
I love that. Thank you. And probably some of you don't realize this, but Virginia works a lot like with our providers. She has even gone out to providers to help them with billing. Steph has as well, specifically gone to a provider that had a huge transition within their financial department and helped them get back on board, like back in place with their fiscal piece. So, please, Virginia is a great resource. I'll just say that. All right. Is it okay if we ask providers not to send their mileage billing notes? Absolutely. Tell them, hey, we don't want it. You don't need to send it. We pay mileage without supporting documentation. Yep. Okay, let's go to the next question. Okay, based on the new billing protocol, what should a psych evaluator do with a completed psych evaluation? Great question. Okay, gonna close the poll. 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's see what the answer is. Attached to the claim in VRCPS. Remember, the psych eval is not employment services. So what's the protocol? Attach to the claim in VRCPS. That's it. It's just 2 billing protocols. That's it. Okay. Next question. All right. This may be a tricky one. Based on the new billing protocol, what should a BIN liaison do with a completed strategic plan? Three, 2, 1. Ooh. Okay, that's actually wrong. Sorry. Oh, okay. So since benefits bin falls under employment services, it would just be emailed to the VR general mailbox. So we'll give you on that one, but it would just be to email it to the VR general mailbox. And we did go ahead and update the bin referral form to update that language so that they know what to do with their reports. All righty. So there's a question about the psych eval, specifically dealing with intakes that's important for evals approval, and the VRCC wants them ASAP. Is the answer we have to wait until they bill to see the eval? Definitely not. I mean, you can ask for it early. But they can submit them with their claim if they're able to get that turnaround pretty quickly. Martina, was that your question? I saw your hand raised for a minute.
Well, I was gonna ask something similar to that.
Okay.
Well, the thing is that we're trying to avoid duplicates, right? So, we're waiting for an eval to be able to get people into services. So we can't wait until they bill sometimes. That's why I'm kind of like, eh.
So you need like a psych eval, is that an example, or did you have another one?
No. A psych eval is an example. Just,
yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm kind of like, if we're trying to avoid duplicates, this is where we could possibly see duplicates.
Yes, so. Potentially. Yeah. And there, we recognize that there are kind of like pros and cons to this protocol, guys. We really do. But we felt like we had to make this pretty large and to the point of a protocol so that we get everybody to follow it. So there might be hiccups with this, and do let us know these kind of hiccups. We tried to think through this and work through this in advance, but I think these are great examples to where you might receive them before the claim, and that's okay. Go ahead, Virginia.
Yeah, I was going to say, ultimately, what's our goal here, guys? Our goal is to have the documentation so that we can approve the claim. And we've heard loud and clear from a lot of you that you receive a claim, you don't have documentation. So we're trying to ultimately resolve that issue and give some guidance. And remember, the word guidance it is that this is the guidance we're giving them. But if they submit the documentation to the general email box and then submit the claim without it, we're not going to reject it because our ultimate goal is we have the documentation, right? Employment service providers, there's going to be some documentation that is not employment service documentation. It's a service documentation, but not employment services. And they may be submitting that with their claim. Goal, do we have the documentation to approve the claim? I think that we need to keep that in mind as we're doing this. So if the goal is we need the evaluation to be able to do eligibility, that's our goal. We can deviate some, but we need to have some consistency, meaning that if that documentation comes in via claim, we're going to go ahead and get that approved. We have the documentation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. Yep. All righty. Okay. So after February 1st, 2024, a vendor provider doesn't follow protocol, what should you do? Three, two, one. All right. A lot of you want to email Virginia and I. So first, let's try these two first. So we can send the vendor the updated supporting documentation guide from the VRCPS homepage, informing them of the protocol, and we can still approve the claim. Okay, that will come later. So back to PowerPoint. All right, speaking of supporting documentation guide, if everyone could on their computer open up a browser and go to VRCPS. Don't log in. And once you find the vendor supporting documentation reference guide, give a thumbs up. Perfect. I'm seeing some thumbs up coming in. So once you find the supporting documentation guide on VRCPS, give a thumbs up. I'm not seeing many thumbs. Okay, I see one more. So it's on the homepage of VRCPS. So if you do need some assistance, you can look at the screen I am sharing, where the homepage. So the cool thing about VRCPS is there are so many resources available on the homepage without even having a login. And we have the vendor supporting documentation reference guide under the important links section. I'm going to go ahead and open it so we can all see what it looks like. Okay, so it's a PDF. It opened, downloaded. Again, here's the two billing protocols. All employment service documentation will be emailed to the VR office general email box. And then we even went a step further to provide them a link to the area directory so they can see the area office emails. Supporting documentation for all of other services will be attached to the claim in VRCPS. So we do, it does go on further to provide other great guidance here, especially on like what they could name their document when they're uploading them for each kind of service that we're authorizing. So, okay. So that is already updated on the webpage. Everyone can see it. You can see it. And then the internal guidance has been updated as well on our SharePoint site. Alrighty. Before I move forward, are there any other questions? Oh, I see. You guys put thumbs up in the chat. I'm so sorry. Okay, good thumbs up. Great. Thanks, guys. Okay. Okay, question about post-secondary. What do we do when a participant won't send in the information we are needing, or when they do send it, say it by phone or email, the format they send it in, we cannot tell or see what it is? So the post-secondary counselor should be able to work through that and communicate with the student, offer different suggestions, taking pictures of something. But yeah, the counselor can definitely reach out to the student on that, and they should know what they should or shouldn't do if they're not receiving information back from the participant. Then I would talk to your post-secondary lead or email Amy Kelly. She'll be a great resource. Yeah. It sounds like maybe a specific situation, so she will be most helpful. Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Speaking of new billing protocol and attachments, let's go into Aware. So last time I talked about this attached files layout, but I want to show you. So I'm in Aware, I'm in a test case. And so right now it's selected on attachments all, but that's not my favorite. What I love is the attached files layout, attached files. And why I love this is because this will show me attachments that were either attached on the claim or somebody manually attached them in the case. So this one layout will show you every attachment in the case. So I can't stress attached files enough. Okay. So everyone, I'm hoping you will start using that layout, because I'm telling you, it will help you with billing as you're processing billing. All right, here's my next tip. So since we are changing the billing protocol and you are going to be receiving a lot more attachments in the general mailbox, we recognize that. So I wanted to give you a couple tips and tricks. So specifically, let's say you have multiple attachments in one email, which, by the way, the providers are allowed to do. In fact, it's probably easier on everyone if they just send many attachments in one email instead of each email being a separate attachment. We're not doing it. Don't do it. Okay? So if I have multiple attachments on my email, I can click the down arrow of just one of my attachments, just one, that's all I need. And then I have now a tree is what this is called. It's a drop down, and I have save all attachments. Wasn't that fun? So when I click that, it highlights all my attachments for me, and I just say, yeah, I wanna save those. And then what I can do is I can create like a separate folder that's like labeled, I don't know, general mailbox attachments or something. That way I know, hey, I always need to save these in that folder, right? So I'm going to save it in attachments. I'm going to hit OK. Okay, now what? What do I do? So I'm going to open my file folder. This is a file folder. It's the little icon down at the bottom. Everyone has one. Oopsie. I'm going to drag it over so we can see two screens here. Okay. Here's my file folder, right? And I put them in my attachments folder. Oh my goodness, would you look at that? There they are. Yay, how fun. So I just did like 2 clicks and it saved me all that time. I didn't have to save. Nobody has time for that. Nobody has time. Okay. So, but thank you to Brian Zimmerman and his CCs for talking to him about the zip files. Zip files are kind of struggling with this drag and drop, right? So a lot of you found this really cool trick in Aware. And I think this is awesome that you guys found this. I actually had to have Amanda come in here real quick to teach me again how to do this. So I'm in my file folder, right? So what I can do is I can click on my attachment, right, that I want to go into attachments. See, this is my monthly progress summary for employment services. I have a new monthly progress summary. I highlighted it. I clicked on my mouse. I'm clicking, I'm holding, I'm clicking, I'm dragging. And I place it right there. Look, there it is. Oh my gosh. Okay, watch. Attach. Okay. Wow. There it is. Isn't that so cool? Probably a majority of you already knew this, right? But how fun is that? So now you're saying, Shelby, zip file problem, let's address that. Yes, let's do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to open our zip file. I double clicked it. So I'm going to highlight my first file here. And then on my keyboard, you can't see it, but I'm telling you, I'm holding down the shift key. And then I can click my last one. And it's highlighted all of them. You can do it a couple ways. You can drag like that and highlight them all. And then I'm going to click and drag. I'm clicking, dragging, but I'm going to drag it into attachments folder. Okay. So I already did this one just to make sure it worked. So I'm going to say, yep, replace. This is where they need to go. So basically what that did is it unzipped it for me and it placed them in here. So now I can find them and move them in here just like I would. Now it works. Phew. How do we feel? I'm seeing some other feedback. Totally fine, guys. If it works a different way for you, then by golly, do that. This is just what I quickly had to learn with like 3 minutes to go. So, okay. Yeah, you drag. We tried this one day, but we're all named exactly the same way. Oh, that stinks. Yeah, that does. Yeah, so maybe work with your provider on that and give them some feedback on how to save attachments. I'm surprised. I don't even know how they can keep track of that themselves. So you can also, yeah, Holly mentioned you can also drag from your email into the case directly. That's an option too. Yep, absolutely. But if you have several attachments, it might be safe to throw them in an attachments folder. And that can also help you keep track of, hey, once I uploaded it, I can delete it from my attachments folder. That's how you can keep track to make sure you know you attach them. All right. Well, hopefully this was helpful. Again, this will be sent out to secretaries if they are not on here, no problem. They can watch this, and then now you can also help them learn this really nice, fast way to handle attachments from email, even the zip file. So Brian, if you're on here, that is my answer to your email. And Brian's VRCCs, that is my answer to your feedback. So thank you so much for letting us know that so we can work through that together. Okay. Oopsie, switch. Okay. Do we feel good or okay about that? That was a lot. But again, this is recorded, so you can go back and watch me slowly do it. Okay. So just a reminder, so the VRCC teams, you know, we love interacting with the teams, which is amazing. We get great feedback. You guys can connect and get feedback off of each other. I love that. Just if in the future, if you are seeing issues in a case or a specific thing, if you could send those to Aware Help Desk, we actually track like all of our questions and issues that we receive in Help Desk. And that helps us identify any training needs or any bugs that are happening. Somebody is watching that email during normal business hours all the time. But we may not always be watching that VRCC chat. And like if VRCPS is down, you know, we need to know that. So if we could just please have you, you know, email Aware Help Desk or VR vendor directly, that would be very helpful. So Weebles. So Weeble stipends. So, and this may be more for counselors, but just so you know, those Weeble stipends, our first round of approach with those is to authorize directly to participants. We want to reimburse them directly. That's our first way of trying to get them the stipend. So if you could help the participants get registered if need be, but having to go through a provider with the stipend piece would cause administration burden on them, and then we have to pay for that. So it's just a lot easier if we can get that participant registered for that stipend directly. If you do have vendors contact you about rate increases, just keep in mind to send those to VR vendor. And if there are new rates, those will be listed in the blast. We do have a little bit of time, so I want to take a small moment, if you will allow me, to look at vendor rates and referrals. So I'm in SharePoint, our main SharePoint site. So cute, so beautiful. There's a tab at the top here, vendor rates and referrals. So Casey Stewart keeps up with this. And so what this is majority of our vendors that have specific rates and referral sheets. Okay, so if you're looking for a specific vendor, you can either sort them or you can try to filter. But you can see the vendor's name. There's even a point of contact. So if you need to send that new referral, that's who you send it to. And then the type of services that they provide, and then their website. And also some may have a referral sheet as well. Oh, wow. Wonderful. Thank you, Casey, for uploading a referral sheet and a rate sheet for assistive driving services. Beautiful. How fun is that? And you guys can see this. You all have access to this. So this is where you come to find rates and referral sheets for specific vendors. So just wanted to highlight vendor rates and referrals. Thank you to Casey for keeping up with that. Any questions on that? Oh, hi, Virgin. Sorry.
Hey, I was just waiting to see if there was any questions. All right. So while you're all thinking, if you have a question, I just wanted to reiterate some of what Shelby said. If a vendor faxes updated rates or they email you updated rates, please refer them to send that information to vrvendor@fssa.in.gov. It is not automatic that we will adjust those rates. They must go through an approval process. We are not asking or currently reaching out to vendors requesting that they update their rate sheets. That's not what our intent is. I'm just saying if they come to you, we need to, because we have vendors who work with multiple offices. If the vendor doesn't understand or doesn't want to do that, then take that rate sheet and go ahead and forward it to VR vendor for them so that we can get working on it. But just please let them know that they need to give us 30 days for that review process to happen so that we can get any questions answered and so forth. And that will be handled through us. So just wanted to kind of clarify a few things. We are working on a standardized process for this. So there will be more information coming out to you all. But again, we're not actively pursuing that vendors send us rate requests. But if they do, then I just want to make sure you all know that you can't just accept those new rates and change authorizations at the local level. Those have to go through VR vendors so we can track them and get those approved by the leadership. And it's not a given that they're going to get approved either, because it depends on the climate and what's going on within state budget agency and our ability to increase rates or not. Any questions on that? And a lot of you have been really good about this, so thank you, thank you. A lot of you have emailed me, and if the vendor is not willing to go the extra step to email VR vendor, then obviously please reach out to me, and then we'll take charge from there.
Thank you, thank you. So I do have a question here from Michael I want to address. Just thinking about Weebles and if somebody gets hurt, responsibility. So, you know, that would be the participant might have insurance and they can, you know, be covered through that. So, but it's also no different than, you know, us going to a job site to either like grocery shop or whatever. That's no different than a participant being on a Weeble site. And if we need to, you know, Voc Rehab can help pay for, you know, medical expenses that are occurred on the because we'll Weeble. But those are kind of blue moon questions. So it, in VR, it just depends. So, okay. I do not want to lose Thelma's question here. So if the employment provider sends documents to the general email, is it possible to please send all documents to each VRC? So unfortunately, that is not a possibility because that would be going against the billing protocol. But when you do look up a participant in Aware, their caseload assignment is listed there. So like on statewide search, just as an example, I use statewide search Indiana DDRS. That's the one I like to use. And it will tell you the caseload right there for that individual. Because you're going to be going in there anyway to attach them. So I do recognize that the counselor information is not on the discovery profile. But we are taking all of the employment service forms back in-house. And what I mean by that is they will no longer be state forms. And so that gives us access to update and edit these forms more regularly if need be. Now, we're not going to try to do that because these are real forms being used every day, and that would cause a lot of panic to providers. But it will be easier in the future for us to make like edits based on these suggestions. So I will take that as a suggestion, Thelma, to add the counselor information on the discovery profile.
Hey, Shelby, this is Virginia. I maybe it's just me, but I don't really understand why, or the question that the VRC, if we're getting the documents in the general email box and we're uploading them into Aware, why would the VRC have to be sent the document if they can view it in Aware? Am I misunderstanding the question, I guess is where I'm at.
Okay, Thelma, go ahead.
Okay, so I know in our area, we have area 11 and 12, and there are times we may have one vendor to send, 30 monthly progress summaries or the profiles. And so we're having to look in each individual one versus like if they just say, these 10 and it's an email and these 10 are Andrews, or like these 20 are Kathy's, or instead of like there may be 3 for me, 1 for, area 11 and like 20 for Bobby. And I mean, it just gets really crazy. And then we have to go and see who it belongs to, because used to with the monthly progress summary, it would have who the VRC was, and then we just knew automatically it was mine or it was Bobby's or it was Teresa's or whoever's. That way we're not having to try to spin, like where is it going? Who does it need to go to? Does that make better sense?
So when you're watching, like when somebody's monitoring the general mailbox, are you like only uploading for your people when you're watching the mailbox?
We do, and we send them out just, to my understanding, and I could be wrong. Please, somebody, you can let me know, but it's just like, I don't want to upload other people's stuff and they don't know it's there, if that makes sense. So we just kind of make sure that we know that, because if we have claims or something and then they haven't seen their whatever, then there's like, well, why do we have a claim? Or, whatever the situation is. That was what I was thinking. Unless somebody's out or something like that, we just kind of usually tend to our own stuff. I could be wrong on that, but.
So Shelby, is there permissions? Like there's nothing that would interfere with them being able to just upload everything.
I think that may be just how that office decided to do that. So it may be something to think about for area 11 and 12 to just say, hey, who's ever monitoring that mailbox, they're uploading in anybody's case, not having to, because things will get lost that way. If people are just like, well, they're not mine, so I'm not going to upload it. I'm going to wait for that person to do that. Things definitely could get lost. And then I think the other piece of that is the notification to the counselor that it's there, right? So there's a layout and aware that counselors should be running on a weekly basis, and that will show them any new attachments being attached to somebody's case. Now, I will say that there are some challenges with that layout, that it just could be over showing people, but it's not under showing. So I would definitely say that VRC should be running that on a weekly basis to see any new attachments. So that's their part. So it's wonderful that you're notifying them that, hey, we received this, you are taking an extra step there, and I'm sure they appreciate that. But I would really talk to the office about kind of how this is going to look after February 1st, knowing that you're going to be getting a lot more attachments, and you're already going to be going into Aware, and you'll see the caseload right then, and you'll see the name when you attach it. And you could just send out an email at the end of the day, hey, I attached new cases or new attachments on your caseload. Make sure to run your layout, new documents. So
I see something, anybody says, so we don't need to forward to the VRC. Correct. Uploading it into Aware is the only thing that you need to do, because they should be looking at it in Aware when they're approving the claim.
Yeah.
Or looking at it in advance if they need to look at it for other purposes, if the claim's not coming in until 30 days later for some reason.
Yep. Libby?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we have found it a little hard because we're area 1314, so we're Kessler. So we have Jan as our secretary getting all of these MPSs, and she forwards them to us. So we have over 20 counselors. There's 6 of us CCs. So when she forwards us these zip files, it's taking us a long time because they're it doesn't say who it belongs to. We get new people so often. It's just kind of, it doesn't seem totally smooth. Like if
Why
maybe
is
they
she
could
forwarding it? What are you doing with them?
She's forwarding them to us so that we can import the MPSs
no,
for ourselves.
No.
Because there's so many of us, and she is sitting at the front desk. She's she's dealing with the beads office and then our very large office. So she forwards them to us, and we can get it done. It's just that nothing on there. Like we'll recognize names, but I feel like things could be left behind. And I don't want to really ask the providers to do more, but if it did say like the counselor's name on there or something, I just think it would be smoother and we wouldn't miss anything. I don't know.
Yeah, let me, maybe I need to work with that office, because a secretary's role is attachments. I mean, that's the role. Is scanning and indexing. So I will look into that to see how we might help with streamlining that. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Uh-huh.
I do see some other questions in the chat, so I don't want to lose them. Virginia, can you answer this question? I have a couple of authorizations for transportation for post-secondary participant. They have not submitted a claim. Can I go ahead and submit it in CPS?
It's answered. It's answered. They put it in twice. So
Virginia says yes. Thank you. Yeah, Carla in Columbus, they don't forward those because the VRC is to review them. Yep, great. Yep, our secretary is responsible for VR mailbox and attaches them. Yep, that's their job. So they may not have a secretary. I think everybody has a secretary now. Okay, so yep, some of these have been answered. Sorry, guys. I just want to make sure we don't miss anybody.
Shelby, there is one that says their secretary moves to, and typically the vendor will CC the VRC. They have been told not to do that. So as of February, they may not do that any longer, Laura, but and that's okay because they've been told that their only responsibility is to send that to the general email box, that we actually prefer them to not CC anybody on it. That way one person knows what needs to be done. And there won't be duplications where a counselor goes in and uploads something and a CC or a secretary goes behind and does the same thing. I like a lot of the naming conventions and things like that. There's strategies for when you're uploading them. Like I saw somebody said they put the date first so that it always has the most current things to the top. If there are some similar suggestions that you like, we can always do some additional training with the providers, asking them to do that already in their naming the documents. I do see where some of that could be very beneficial. So we appreciate your feedback on that.
To Michael's comment, I can't appreciate you wanting to control things. I'm the same way. But keep in mind, everybody should be attaching the same and following best practice, which is to do the file folder, like you mentioned. So there should be a file folder for employment services, and then you should see a ton of attachments in there for monthly progress summaries, discovery profiles, anything related to employment services. And your secretary should also be following that protocol. That's for everyone to follow. I'm going to put my pin down. So there should be consistency and people should be following that to make everybody's job easier. So I'm glad you're doing that, Michael. I just want everybody else to get on board so you don't have to do things separately that takes you away from the things you need to do for your counselors. So I will say that. I also will say with the date changing, if people are using the attached files layout, I'll always make a plug for the attached files layout. Regardless of the date that you change in that attachment folder, it will always be at the top. So any new attachments will always show in the attached files at the top, regardless. So. Oopsie. All right, so back to VBOX. So the future of the VRCC trainings and quarterlies. So Casey Stewart will be taking on more of a role with our VRCC trainings. This also includes new VRCC training. So as new VRCCs come on board, she will be helping facilitate that training. And then Amy Llewellyn will still be doing that initial VRCPS training as well. So they're going to coordinate with each other on new VRCC training. And then for the VRCC quarterlies, she will also be taking more of a role here. Virginia and I will still be a part of this group, of course. We are considering a little change. So we're considering, instead of quarterly, to just do 3 times a year, 2 virtual and 1 in person, because we had some feedback about having to travel for the April one. And so that the suggestion was to have a North, Central, and South training in person. And so we can accommodate that, but we can really just, if we could accommodate that 1 time a year, doing that twice a year is very hard for Virginia and I to take some time to travel so much. But we could do that 1 time a year in person, do a North, Central, and South. So
Shelby, if I can also insert, but I know we're reducing this to 3 times a year, 1 in person and 2 virtual. But I also want to put out there that if you have individual needs in your local office that you want us to address, we would we are willing to travel. We are willing to do that additional training. Just get with your area supervisor, discuss it, come to us with like what, you know, some basic topics. We may have some additional things, but I would love to spend that time doing some more one-on-one training with your office rather than because I think it would help you to be able to get answers to your specific questions, if that makes sense. So even though we're reducing the meetings, I don't want you to think that we're not available.
Absolutely. All right. So I have a question here from VVox. Did you start within 1 year from today? So we're asking this because we want to do a training with individuals who have been here 1 year or less. So that's why we're asking this. Okay, few of us newbies. All right, this is our last question. Would you like to attend a refresher training on entering claims in VRCPS and participant registration process? Yes, no, no, and I would like to help facilitate trainings on these topics. The first question was about VRCC. Have you been a VRCC for less than a year? All right, and then the second question, if you could answer that, and we'll get that feedback later. I'll pull this data later. So. Alrighty, gonna close this. I can keep it open. It's the last one, so I'll keep it open. Every time. Okay. That does conclude the training for today. More to come on the April one, based on kind of the feedback we got with the travel and how we're gonna change that. We may change this to a virtual and then have the in-person be in June or July is what we had come up with. I typed it somewhere, but so more to come on that date. Hopefully that will accommodate more of you having a north, central, and south. So. All right, so questions. What questions? Let's chat, let's talk. All right, there's a question about the new documents, including central SCADA indexing layout. How do we get rid of the names that are showing that there are no new attachments? So that was like the challenge that I was talking about, Cherith. I recognize that layout is not perfect every day, and that some people can hang on there even after you've gone and looked at the attachment. I will say sometimes it may be on a closed case, so you may have to go do a statewide search for that participant to see if there was an attachment to a closed case, because we can receive attachments on closed cases. But there is that challenge with that layout. Yeah, I know. We put in support tickets on that several times. They can't replicate it. But the thing about that layout is that is user specific. So I know this isn't what you're talking about, Cherith, but just in general about that layout may look very different for me as opposed to you, because they're new to me, which is wonderful, right? We don't want that new to go away for like our counselor who still needs to go in there. So, all right. I have a question about the PS participant layout and aware. Oh, cool. Not all of my VRC's PS participants are listed in that layout, and some are listed twice. Is there a way to fix this? Okay, fun. Let's just work through this together. Let me share over here. Okay, so this layout, I'm in the participant module. Now I am in test environment, so it's pretty old data, but what is that layout specifically called? Post-secondary participants? Is it this one? Yes. Okay. So we're going to hit apply. All right. Can somebody give, actually, I know one. I know a caseload. Okay. All right. So let's look at this predefined filter. So this is looking at all cases who are eligible or in service and have open educational goals for these educational goals. So they're open. So if you're seeing multiple, if you're seeing them twice, that may be because they have 2 open educational goals, which needs to be corrected. And if you're not seeing people on there, then that means they don't have an open educational goal like they should. So great question. That was a good question. So I'll say that again. If you do not see people on the post-secondary participants layout that should be there, that means there's no open educational goal. If you're seeing people twice on this list, then that means they have multiple open educational goals, which should not be the case. So it just one needs to be completed. And then you should only see 1 on there. Now, while I'm talking about post-secondary participants, let's look at plan post-secondary students and what does that layout show us? So this layout, again, my predefined filter where I can see exactly what's being pulled here. It's pulling all open cases with the post-secondary education dropdown on the plan is yes. So for this, they have 18. So that almost matches. That's good. We want these to match really. So we have 1 more here. So maybe we just need to add an open educational goal for the other. Maybe we're missing a participant, but this is what this layout means. So thank you, Kylie, for that. So that was cool. Good question. I can easily show you things right here and we can work through it. For the in-person quarterly in April, so the April might change, but when we have an in-person, yes, please bring your laptops. That will be like a working session, if you would. Marchita, I see employment service is not on the supporting documentation reference guide on CPS homepage. Is that correct? Yes, it was just at the bottom, big bold, that says it should be emailed to the area office. Now, we might look at that again if we needed to put recommendations of what to name the files. We may look at that and update that. Okay, yep, perfect. Yeah, we can take a look at that. That's an easy fix. See, this is great. You guys give suggestions and we can see what we can do to change things. All right. Any other questions? Just a friendly reminder to be sure that you're rectifying your fiscal every 120 days. And also make sure you can close out authorizations that have final billing on it. And that final billing will show on that last payment. It'll say in the notes section, authorization can be closed. This is the final billing. It's like in all caps. So that tells you the authorization can be closed. And then you can also close it if there's a 0 balance. As long as we have that warrant number, you're good. Sometimes if I'm in there, I'll throw some bones out there and I'll close myself, but just want to make sure you guys know you can absolutely do that. So, any other questions? You want to look at something, have questions about? Yeah, so not all vendors or providers, so we'll put that in there. So that is actually a drop down when they submit their claim, and they have to answer that drop down. Will there be any additional billing? So it's a yes or no. So they may, answer that incorrectly sometimes, a lot of the times, but if they answer there will be no other billing, then it will automatically come in and let you know that it can be closed. Oh, incentive payment questions. Yep. Go for it, Dana. Okay. So we have a closed case and the provider did ask for the incentive payment the day that the case was closed. We now have a pay stub. So can we still authorize and pay for this? Email our help desk and we will take a look. Do keep in mind at the time of stabilization, it is on the counselor's kind of responsibility there that when they're approving that stabilization, they should be checking that and making sure that the pay or the hours or benefits, if that reaches a certain level, that they should be sending you an activity due to create that incentive payment authorization. It shows on that stabilization form, it's been updated. So the stabilization form that they get should indicate at the top in a little table the number of hours they're working, their pay, and if they receive benefits. And that should say, okay, yep, they meet that, but don't meet this. So, yep, they can do level 2. And you can help remind them of these as well if you notice it. So yep, just aware, email Aware Help Desk. We can take a look at that and see what we can do. Most likely, we can authorize on closed cases, just so you guys know if we need to. So. Okay. Anything else? So be looking for your email of any updates regarding Aware being upgraded with those new enhancements with DocuSign. Oh, was there a question, Maggie, I missed about referrals? Maggie, can you put your question back in?
I see it, Shelby. It says, I have a question about referrals. Is the secretary responsible for trying to get these scheduled?
Depends of who's kind of taking on that role. So like some offices, the VRCC for that intake person can try to schedule those, or if your office has the capacity to have a secretary do that, that can happen. Some offices even have like designated referral coordinators who are also VRCCs that do that scheduling. So I think it's just really an office decision on that.
Shelby, Martina put something in about training for VRCCs and registering participants in VRCPS. Martina, I'm not, are you asking about that? Are you reminding us?
I'm asking. I thought we were going to have something about that today, so I wasn't clear. Is there a separate training going? Because we really desperately need it I know for a VRCC in my office.
So we had the question in the VVox, if people would like to attend a refresher, we were going to do a separate refresher training on those, on registering participants and submitting claims. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And we'll share that with everybody, not just those who signed up, but that's just to for us to kind of figure out how we could do that. Okay, we are told we are supposed to share information. Question on the role of VR liaison person. First of all, can you clarify VR liaison person, who that is? We are told that we are supposed to share information with them. Why are they not given permission to have Aware? Oh, the WIOA partner navigators. Yeah. So we can absolutely share information with them. They've signed all the releases. We are working on getting them access to Aware. We just have to do a training with them first. So we are working to coordinate a training on that. So what we're thinking about is that they will have access to enter new referrals into Aware. So as they have new referrals from Work One, they can just enter those in the referral module, let the individual will know in the office who schedules intakes that, hey, there's a new referral in here. Can you schedule that? And so we'll have that. And if they work with a participant, like in the participant module, then they'll have the ability to enter a case note if they did any kind of direct work with a participant. So yes, we are working on that. Thank you. Any other questions? Well, this wraps up our time. Thank you so much for your attendance and participation. Be on the lookout for future trainings based on the feedback that we got today, and we will talk soon. Bye.